The movie unfolds in the year 2071. In the city of Moscow, this surroundings depict how the planet Earth has greatly suffered from the intergalactic war fueled by Cherno, an evil scientist who dreams of conquering the entire universe. He is regarded as the most dangerous prisoner, turning his experiments as weapons that threaten lives. 20 years after the war, the humans, also known as Earthlings, still face hardships and struggle to sustain their basic needs. Anton, a young male Earthling, waits in a long line of humans to refill his water supply. When a mysterious figure from the shadows intentionally manipulates a metal pole to collapse from behind him. Anton manages to evade the falling pole, but it creates a commotion in the area. The humans in line stared at him in dismay, accusing him of being plagued by bad luck out of the annoyance at the continuous accidents involving him. Meanwhile, the mysterious figure, who turns out to be Cherno's daughter Valia, reports back to her father in his gigantic spaceship turned prison. Valia's consistent failed attempts to stimulate Anton's DNA upsets turned out his latest invention, called the proto-gene, a combination of unique cells, is about to run out. The last remaining proto-gene is revealed to be within Anton's DNA, and it serves as the only key to his freedom. As a result, Cherno continually pressures her to keep on pursuing Anton and kill him for good, to which Valia feels heavily burdened. While Cherno's prison resides in the Earth's deep underground, another huge spaceship hovers right above it inside the city. This spaceship is displayed as a dandelion-shaped stadium that caters to a high-risk flying sport known as cosmoball. In this sport, intergalactic teams of 4 must kick the destructive ball of energy called Wave Eater 5 times to open their opposing team's goal and score point. 3 gifted humans, Fan, Natasha and Pell, make up the Team Earthlings, in which they all skillfully strike their opponent's school open amidst being outnumbered. The game is broadcasted everywhere above the skies of the Earth in big holographic scenes, serving as the humans' greatest source of entertainment. On the contrary, Anton is frustrated at the impact brought by cosmoball to the humans. He calls them out for being too immersed in a game when there are far better things to focus on, such as getting a job and dealing with hunger. Back in the stadium, the Earthlings and their current opponent, the Circassians, both succeed at opening their opposing goal zones. Stan, a star player of the Circassians, strikes a goal and they take the lead against the Earthlings by 1. In fact, the Wave Eater is one of Cherno's inventions. In the midst of transporting another Wave Leader to the playing field, Cherno successfully intercepts the transfer and instead tosses the wave towards the machines. A few machines smashed to bits, severely injuring the guards in the process. This urges Bello, the head of the Galactic Cosmoball League, to momentarily halt the game and inform the players about the sudden technical difficulty. The guards regain control of the Wave Eater and the game resumes as soon as the ball reaches the playing field. Though the game ends in a draw, it is the first time in history that the Earthlings triumphantly make their way to the finals, earning a loud cheer from the human spectators in and out of the stadium. Cherno, on the other hand, shouts in anguish at the sight of his creation turning into lumps of rock. The night emerges and Anton comes home to his sick mother. He finds out that his mom has been lying about her medical supply and pretends to be fine. Anton rushes to the pharmacy where he comes across a young woman named Anya. The two of them break into the pharmacy to steal some food and medical supplies. But the alarm immediately catches the attention of the police. 2 police officers led by Captain Vasily catch up to them. Anton pretends to surrender alone and distracts the officers while Anya remains hidden. He manages to create an opening by distracting them and is able to run away. Just then Anton runs and crashes onto a rushing vehicle, causing him to shout in panic. Vasily checks the front of the truck only to find nothing else but the stolen medicine spilled all over the floor. They leave the place in confusion, while Valia, who has effectively concealed herself as the driver of the truck, grins in satisfaction. Later, it is revealed that Anya is also Valia, who has been following in town all this time. Anton's sphere has activated the proto-gene and his teleportation ability for the first time as he teleports uncontrollably a few miles away from his previous location. Disguised as Anya, Valia lures Anton to her basement and and captures his attention through their common interests, such as their shared dislike for cosmoball and their desire to help their sick parents. Anton listens intently, oblivious of why Anya pulls a few strands of his hair to collect a portion of the proto-gene from his DNA. Anya brings the hair strands to her father. However, the proto-gene barely responds because of the inadequate amount. Meanwhile, Anton comes back home surprised at the sight of Bello and the Team Earthlings in their house. He shows Anton the entire machinery inside the stadium ship and explains how cosmoball is more than just a game. He tells Anton about the war Cherno, the Wave Eater, and his last invention, which is the proto-gene. Ultimately, he says to Anton that being an athlete allows him to give his fellow Earthlings something to hope for amidst their current situation. Anton eventually realizes the repercussions of his action and runs back to retrieve the poisonous pod that he dropped, only to find that it has already seeped into a portion of the ship's stadium. He comes back to the playing field and shouts that the stadium has been infected, but to no avail as the game goes on. The fellow fortunately notices him and reacts quickly by freezing the infected area. The poison continues to spread and the stadium ship goes into emergency evacuation mode. In order to protect the audience, Natasha arrives to free the remaining audience stuck inside when the Wave Eater dashes toward her direction. Anton sees this and races to her aid before the athletes kick the Wave Eater 5 times, which results in its meltdown. He loses consciousness from being hit by the Wave Eater, but he wakes up not long after. Then he immediately goes to confront Anya in her basement. Yet as soon as their eyes meet, she stuns Anton and shows him her true form as Volia, while confessing her admiration towards him. Even so, she is disappointed in him for not completely destroying the stadium ship and begins to collect a moderate amount of protein in his DNA before leaving him unconscious. Anton Sputnik hurriedly looks for him after sensing the threat, finding him lying unconscious. His Sputnik connects with him and ends up exhausting itself to heal in tons of injury. At the same time, Cerno acquires the proto-gene from Volia and begins his escape plan. Through the proto-gene, Cerno summons another one of his creations, a gigantic puppy-like creature. He links himself with the creature to gain full control and uses it as a spaceship. The proto-gene in his possession also grants him the ability to teleport his way out. After a while, Anton wakes up and sees Natasha and Bello beside him. Somewhere inside the same basement, Bello hears Cherno. Calling his name, Cherno addresses Bello as his creator and invites him to join forces with him. Natasha becomes confused upon hearing this. She questions him up front, but Bello shrugs her off, along with the Saru Zeons and Amazonians. They all gather outside and briefly encounter Cherno as he successfully escapes and teleports out of planet Earth. Meanwhile, the athletes stay on guard throughout the city, while Bello informs the Galactic Council. He also reveals the closely guarded secret about cosmoball to everyone. They learned that cosmoball is not a game, but a war, and that the stadium ship is built to prevent the destruction of the planet back in his home. Anton's mom comes to tell him that the athletes are leaving for the war against Cherno. But Anton lies down weirdly and disheartened from the events around him while holding his Sputnik in his embrace. His mom turns to comfort him, saying that on planet Earth, people make mistakes all the time, but there are strong people who try to fix the mistakes they've made. Simultaneously, Bello holds another meeting with the Galactic Council about their plan of action. When Natasha suddenly enters, Natasha is still bugged by what she heard. She persistently asked Bello why Cerno addressed him as his creator. Bello is left with no choice but to explain to her that Turn 2 is the greatest failure as a fellow scientist. He says that Cherno was forged in his image. He admits his mistakes, thinking that Cherno would assist him like this button next to he has given him feelings but has failed in shaping those feelings. Bello and Chino's falling out has led to the banishment of Cherno and has resulted in the events of the intergalactic war 20 years back. Outside the planet Earth, Cerno prepares to fire his newly created Wave Eaters from his ship. He reunites with Volia, instructing her to prevent the athletes from leaving the Earth as long as she can. The huge battle ensues immediately after Cerno sends a succession of Wave Eaters to the surface of Earth. At the same time, Fan Pel, along with the members of the Saru Zeons and Amazonians, spread out in different positions outside the city in anticipation. They continuously kick at the incoming wave eaters, tossing it towards each other to complete the 5 strikes. Outside, the ships of the Galactic Fleet set up a trap for Cherno and his ship through the supervision of Bello. Cherno, on the other hand, nullifies the trap and destroys the ship single-handedly, which is washed by Bello and Natasha and Torment. Using the stadium ship, they continue their pursuit on Cherno. In the midst of destroying the wave eaters, the athletes begin to feel fatigue. Stan is on the verge of overheating while Fan is injured from being hit by the wave eater. Despite that, they push forward. The impact of their swift strike causes some buildings to crash in some areas of the city. It is when Anton alarmingly gets up and witnesses what is happening. He talks earnestly to his Sputnik and fully establishes their connection. Anton Leader calls his Sputnik's name Mowgli, which finally awakens it. Anton heads out to assist Fan and Pel. He brings injured Fan to safety with the help of their fellow Earthlings. The residents of the city of Moscow find shelter against the falling debris, including Anton's mom and Vasily, who has developed a romantic relationship after hanging out together on several occasions. Up in the sky, two wave eaters in a row rush towards Anton's direction. He manages to strike the first one, but fails to notice the second one, which drags him towards the ground. He lands safely but ends up in tattered clothes. His Sputnik Mowgli senses the situation and instantly comes to his aid. They happily reconcile and link together, creating Anton's gear for combat. Anton is now able to communicate with the rest of the athletes, and with Mowgli in battle mode, he begins to strike once again in full spirit. He successfully destroys each wave eater with only one hit, impressing the rest of the athletes. On the other side, Bello decides to face Cherno head-on. He gives Natasha full control of the ship's stadium, ordering her to go back to Earth and see the others in case he does not make it back alive. Natasha agrees and teleports with Bello inside Cherno's ship, where they arrive to finally confront him. Bello Leader shows his true form while facing Cherno. They shortly catch up on the 20-year gap, and immediately after their battle transpires, Cherno sneaks an attack towards Bello, but they quickly catch on. In response, Natasha teleports right in front of Cherno to kick him, but Volume interrupts her. Natasha evades Volume's attack and teleports away. However, Volume captures and stunts her instantly. Cherno aggressively charges at Bello, gloating that he has gotten much stronger than him despite being his creation. Meanwhile, Anton successfully teleports on the Earth's moon, with Mowgli witnessing the moon's sorry state. Mowgli's alarm activates, sensing danger nearby. They head towards the area straight away while thinking of Natasha and Bello in the ship. Bello angers Cherno. After he attacks with balls of ice towards his proteins, Cherno creates a large shield to protect his creation. While Bello continuously attacks, Bello slips up a ball of ice right above the shield. Where he directly hits Turn Up, the ice spreads around Cherno and it freezes his entire body. When Bello's constant attacks break the shield and almost freeze Channel's entire creation of proto-genes, Volume shape shifts in Natasha's form and stunts, and Volume currently gains the upper hand, incapacitating both Bello and Natasha before she destroys the ice that has been trapping Turnip. Cherno breaks free and utilizes his elastic gear to strangle Bello. He says his parting words and is about to kill him. But Anton arrives in time. Anton takes Value hostage against Cherno, making him release his hold on Bello. Cherno walks towards Anton's direction and challenges him as if he can never kill Volume. He mentions that Volume has never been a perfect creation and stabs her in the abdomen himself. Giorno's blade lightly touches Anton's gear, and it pushes him forcefully on the lining of the ship, where he is trapped and unable to teleport. Bello barely manages to keep Turmo distracted by dropping a bead of ice in an attempt to neutralize the power of the ship. The evil Cherno proceeds to direct his makeshift spear towards Bello and kills him instantly. Anton takes the chance to connect with the ship itself through their shared cells. He meets the puppy-like creature and it wildly chases him. As Anton nears the exit, He decides to stop and directly faces the creature instead. The wild creature is taken aback, its limbs coming to a full stop in front of the Earthling. They both stare at each other for a moment, and Anton leader protests vehemently at the creature for its threatening behavior. It roars at him in reply before it senses their connection. Pushing further, Anton calms the creature by lightly touching its head. Soon enough, he successfully establishes trust with the creature, enabling him to break free of the lining of the ship. Furthermore, the creature grows fond of Anton, which ultimately destroys its connection from Cherto. Cherto tries to resist and exclaims that he's the master, but the creature no longer listens to him. He is mercilessly ejected out of the ship and tossed onto a massive ball of hot gas where he melts to death. Natasha regains control of her body. After being released from the trap, Anton teleports back to her and together they return to Earth. On Earth, the citizens have grown tired of hiding. They become determined to survive and gather to fight for humanity. Through Value's lead, they go to position ready to fight the wave eaters coming their way, when all suddenly stop and stay in place after Turner's feat. Claiming their victory, the residents of the city of Moscow cheer out loud. After some time, the city is brought to better shape under the leadership of Natasha. The energy from the remaining wave eaters has been harnessed to restore and improve the way of life on Earth. In her speech, she stresses that it is the time for Earthlings to live, not just arrive. It is broadcasted all over the planet with everyone honoring Bello's sacrifice. The movie concludes with the Team Earthlings reuniting after Natasha's speech along with Anton's mom, new stepdad Wasily Mowgli, and the creature who he now calls Kid.